we're not going back to Muirfield, and we got to go back to Muirfield, right? Like it's right next door. They're not doing it 2 weeks in a row in the same spot. So I would love for them to move the Scottish Open around a little bit so we can get to Muirfield sometime, before you and I are done doing this.
I'd like
for
to
sure.
hear from some Scottish fans out there. Now, if you're a Scottish fan and you're watching this, smash the like, sub to the channel, sub to the newsletter, all that fun stuff. However,
Read the line.
And readtheline.com and betsportsgolf.com code Canada for $1 off. You get all the tools you need. But what I'd like to hear is, would you prefer there be a rotation of courses in Scotland for the Scottish Open? And again, the logistics of it being the week before the Open Championship can kind of make that difficult. But it's the same reason that I get pissed that the Canadian Open doesn't move outside of 100 kilometers of downtown Toronto when this is the second biggest country in the world. Not quite as big of a country in Scotland, but plenty of golf courses, championship golf courses, you can go play. That should there be a rotation? I think that there should.
At Mayo Experience.
This is the final word on the Canadian Open. Remember to sub to Mayo Media Network, smash the like to the episode, and give me your winner down in the description. Keith Stewart from readtheline.com on the line. As always, sir, you are not north of the border. For shame.
I am not. My passport expired. No, just kidding. I'm getting prepared for Shinnecock, my friend. So I did not travel up to Toronto. All the nice things that you said about TPC Toronto in the past didn't get me excited to travel up there.
Well, I mean, it's probably right in between you and Toronto anyway. It's that far away from Toronto proper. So it would have been a short drive up the coast from Jersey. Probably only like 4 hours or something like that. Who knows? But I'm getting more excited as the tournament comes along, mainly because I've been checking out the weather splits for the week, and they look like a disaster for wind. And if this course gets super windy, I don't want to say it's going to be as tough as Erin Hills can play, but remember when they had the U.S. Open at Erin Hills and no wind showed up at all when it played super easy, and the wind was its only defense? I feel like that's a similar narrative for this course at Osprey Valley, that if the wind picks up, it gets hard.
So, Pat, the last course that I worked at, a place called Springdale Golf Club down here in Princeton, New Jersey, super classic William Flynn design. And we'll talk more, obviously, about William Flynn next week when it comes to Shinnecock. But when I was there, we redid a master plan, and the guy who did it was Ian Andrew, which is obviously a popular name up in Canada. Ian was chosen because we were in the ballpark for looking for somebody like an Andrew Green or whatever, but you got to work with people and their schedules. So I got to know Ian very well when he worked on the project at the club where I was the head professional. And so I've always called him whenever we go to one of his golf courses up there in Canada. And that was the one thing that stuck out to me in my conversation with him last year when we were chatting about like, hey, what does it take to kind of win at this place? He's like, Keith, hey, if there's no wind, if there's no elements, he goes, this place is wide open. I know how good these guys are. It's not going to be pretty. And if the wind comes through, like the forecast says, on Thursday and Friday afternoon in the low to mid 20s for gusts, and then Saturday, what did it say? Like in the high teens, low 20s for gusts, but then Sunday in the 30-mile-an-hour range for gusts. I mean, we could get some really good entertainment, and it wasn't not entertaining last year. I mean, the playoff was pretty good. I had Sam Burns, and you probably did too. But like other than that, if you're just looking at it from a fan's point of view, I mean, it was a good tournament.
It was. It just didn't. I don't feel. I guess I'm comparing it to other Canadian Opens, and it felt like the Canadian Open was really starting to get some juice to it with a lot of these city courses. And I don't want to keep repeating myself because I've said this on most shows, but I think doesn't necessarily speak to what Roll-Up wants to do with. Like there was news today that this year's Rocket Mortgage in Detroit is the final Rocket Mortgage. They are not going back to Detroit after this time around in about a month's time. So that's going to be off the schedule. But something that they want to do is move a lot of these tournaments into bigger cities. And that's great and everything, but if you're playing in the suburbs or just outside of town, I don't understand what the point is of having them there anyway. Utilizing these great city courses is what the Canadian Open did really, really well for 3 straight years, and then they completely abandoned it because those courses just didn't want to do it anymore, as Jeff explained why they're not going back to his course anymore. But that vibe was an awesome vibe, and I felt like it really translated through the screen for a viewing experience.
I can't disagree with you there. I think of one of my favorite for sure editions was St. George's, which is right there in Toronto, correct?
Yeah, that's in the heart of the city.
Yeah, and I thought that was an incredible viewing experience. That's interesting about Detroit Golf Club. Aren't they closed right now? Are they just doing a massive renovation to
I
the whole
have
property?
no idea. I just saw that hit the timeline today.
No, I believe they, shovels in the ground right after last year's Rocket Classic, and they're doing a massive renovation right now. I hope it wasn't just for the tour
Yeah, just
or
in
for.
the Rocket Classic will be contested for the final time this year, with Rocket electing not to renew. Oh, okay, maybe it's not out of Detroit. Let's see, Rocket not electing to renew as sponsor following this year, following a 13 run as title sponsor in 8 years in Detroit. The move comes amidst weak fields and poor attendance. So I don't know if it's out of Detroit, but Rocket is done,
Got it.
which means
All
probably
right.
the end of the tournament.
Well, or tier two or something like that.
Well, it was a tier
There's-
two. It was a tier two event anyway.
Well, I mean, now we're just making it official. I don't know what to tell you. I just think it's classic that if the membership there and the tournament officials and everyone involved did this, you know, ma- massive renovation of the golf course, Donald Ross gem and everything, and they try to update it for the tour, and then the tour just leaves. That's par for the course.
Well, maybe Rocket wants to buy Live Golf. Apparently, it's on the open market now, according to CNBC in the Scott O'Neill interview.
Oh, did you see that disaster of a soundbite?
I did.
Oh my God.
Hey, you have to watch the full clip in context, where he then goes on to say that the PIF is very committed to funding Live for the rest of the year. I have my doubts about that, Keith.
Well, I mean, you and I have talked about this off camera, but now since it's on CNBC or CNN, whatever it was on, as well as I do that that funding is not continuing. That thing's dead in the water. It's done. Let's just move on.
I did see, I think it was the Flushing It podcast put out
Yep.
let's see here. Where's Flushing It? They put out a detailed plan of like what they would want to do with it.
Okay.
And how it should be player funded, that kind of thing. I actually think that if it does become a player funded tour, obviously they're not going to have gaudy prize pools. But
Sure.
if Bryson is the head of this and the players do have incentive, like they can recoup profits from the league itself, I think that's a better idea than what they have currently going. I don't know if that's feasible at all, but I do like that idea better.
I mean, I think the only thing that works if Bryson's in charge is that if he gets the Bryan brothers and Brad Dahlke and everybody else from YouTube and starts their own tour. I mean, that would get a ton of viewership, but this thing's not going to. The world has too many tours to begin with. It can't carry all of them as far as viewership goes. Now, if viewership's not important and you just want to travel around and try to expand the game and its horizons based upon that, then that's great. But I mean, just like how popular is the Corn Ferry Tour? Those golfers are unbelievably good. They would be better than any golfer that you and I'd ever played with if we had an average guy from that tour and we just went out and played this afternoon after we get done recording this pod. But, no one watches that tour. And, I mean, well, look at the ladies. Those are the best women in the world. They have no competitive tour against them. And their ratings are barely average for going to Los Angeles in prime time in LA. And you have two of their biggest and most attractive superstars going head to head down the stretch with Charlie Hull and Nelly Korda. And it ends on the last putt, which almost lips out from just under 3 feet. I mean, you had as much drama as you could in the City of Lights there. And, it does not attract enough attention. I mean, we were talking about it ourselves. It's like, it feels like the tour right now is kind of on like a rinse, rewind, repeat mode. We peaked at Augusta. We may peak, again at Shinnecock and then when do we peak again? I mean, I don't know if it's going to be the President's Cup.
It'll be
So,
the Open has juice. The Open has juice. The U.S. Open has juice, and the Masters has juice. But to your point, what we were talking about before, that it does feel like everyone's kind of, I don't want to say tuned out of golf, but everyone just dropped it into neutral and is just coasting along since the Masters. That's at least how it feels to me. I don't want to say that that's how we've been doing it on the show, because I feel like we've been hammering down a lot. But, I've taken two vacations in here. It's that time of year to go do that. But no tournament. Like last week's tournament Memorial was great. I very much enjoyed watching it. But it felt like at Riv earlier on in the year. Hell, even Torrey Pines when Justin Rose was running away with it, or the final round of the Amex. And maybe it's because golf had just come back that people seemed engaged. No one seems engaged anymore.
Well, when they started the Signature Series, what was the first thing that they called them? They called them elevated events. they don't feel very elevated anymore. No cut, 70 guys, the same exact field. And one of the things that you and I love talking about the most are not necessarily just long shots, but some of the stories of these guys. And I'm sure we'll get into it, but the guys that played well at the US Open qualifiers on Monday, and like, how we feel about them going into the North Course at TPC Toronto, because the guys did qualify, like a Max Grazerman coming out of the New York qualifier. Like all of that is kind of what has always fueled the golf conversations, what has made it compelling. And when you roll back like the Truist and Doral or the Cadillac back to back, and it was the same like 70 guys, except we switched Scotty for Rory. I think we were kind of losing the plot at some point. And hopefully we get some serious theater, let's say, in the next couple of weeks.
That would be great. But you were at Muirfield Village last week and Rolap was talking there. It doesn't sound like this is going to change going into next year.
No, there was a direct question asked of him about, I brought this up on X with Josh Carpenter because Bay Hill, we saw the move of Bay Hill past players, but in their press release that the media got, it said, we can't wait to welcome a field of 72 players. And I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. I thought when we were in the fishbowl at the players that Brian had said it was going to be 120 players and cuts next year. Well, I had to go back and look at the transcript, and he alluded to that fact that those were, concepts that they were discussing and working on. I guess because I was so hopeful, or you would be so hopeful that we would get back to that point that we kind of like maybe attached our memory to that or something. I don't know. It feels like it was more real than it actually turned out to be. But he was asked directly last week, like, hey, what are we doing with the size of the field and with cuts next year? Are these signature events going to be the same? And he made it sound like, and Joe Idoni put it in his show this week, the direct quote from Rolap. It was basically like, as it turns out, to make some of these changes, they become wholesale changes. And then next thing you know, it's sponsors and all the different partners that they're working with. They can't just be changed for next year, and they could change them for 28. So I guess the size of the field and what the partners agreed to when it comes to, whether it's the event has a cut or it doesn't have a cut, so on and so forth. That guy must be losing his mind. At the NFL, they're like Harry Potter, like wave their wand and they're like, boom, abracadabra. And then next thing you know, they make changes, like live with shorts. And this guy, he's been there now. He'll be here like 2+ years, or it'll be a year at Travelers, but it's going to take him like 2 years to change the schedule, which has like 30 events in it.
So does that mean we're not doing the tier 1, tier 2 next year, or is it going to be that, but with the 72-man fields?
There will be, to my knowledge, and what he said in a small scrum last week of maybe 10 of us, tier 1, tier 2, with all of this talk, with all the reporting you see on social media, will start in 2028.
Okay.
Next year is going to be exactly the same as what we've grown to love and expect from the PGA Tour, or what we're experiencing this year with just different major hosts.
The other news coming out was that Golf Australia confirmed a multi-year partnership with the DP World Tour and the PGA Tour to help elevate the Australian Open. So I'm guessing this was done because of it's funny that LIV runs a tournament in Adelaide. It becomes easily the most successful thing that LIV does and has done every single year of its existence. Now that LIV is probably going to be going away, and now that this is happening, the lasting legacy of LIV is going to be A, getting players paid a whole lot more, and probably a lot more than they should, thus crippling a lot of parts of professional golf, and B, getting Patrick Cantlay to play in Australia.
Well, they say the NFL is a copycat league. They did something popular in Australia, and people they're getting on a boat and they're going down there and they're doing the same thing. I'm not surprised by any of that. That being said, Australia is a haven for just some incredible golf courses down there. We saw that with the Australian Open this past year at Royal Melbourne and the 2019 President's Cup. So, I think that's a good thing. It also happens in December when it's kind of a low period for us, and you still get to see some great championship golf if you're into that. If you're not, you can take a break from it, but it's there, and it's always a great tournament that's well attended, which is fun to watch.
Oh, I love seeing it down there. They play the back-to-back weeks in Australia as a part of the DP World Tour and as a part of the Australia Asian Tour as well. And Rory played in the like that was the weird thing about it, is that guys went to go play in that tournament anyway. It's not like the PGA is going to mandate guys go play. It's going to be a part of the swing season fall schedule. It's not like, hey, Scotty Scheffler's coming to play. He might, but there's no guarantee that he's going to be there.
Well, I think that one of the best things that's happened in golf to, what Liv was saying, they wanted to expand the game and, reach different parts of the world. I think one of the coolest things that's happened in the last couple of years is when the Masters announced, what's it, like 6 or 7 national opens. The person that wins that gets in the Masters. And that's not to say that, the amateur golfers shouldn't be invited for winning the US Mid-Am or for winning the US Amateur. I mean, those tournaments are very, very difficult to win. But the guy that's winning the Australian Open or the South African Open or the Italian Open or, the different ones that are on that list, if one of those is wrong, then please fact check me. But, it was that level of open that, is now getting into it. And, I think that that's a pretty good storyline for somebody to get to play in the Masters from all over the world. And I think that's one of the coolest things that's kind of happened in golf over the last few years is the elevation of those national championships.
Yeah, beginning this year, there were the national opens were the Scottish, which was going to get you in anyway because it's a PGA event. It'd be like saying the Canadian Open gets you in. It's like, well, of course it does. That's just how the PGA works. Scottish, Spanish, Japan, Hong Kong, Australian, and South African Open. The winners of those all get in.
I mean, that's fantastic. And, some of those had some really what's RNP won Australia and he ends up going playing in the Masters. That's a really cool thing to be able to earn and an alternative way to earn it, which I think is fun for golf and is some of the things that I think that you and I, when we start to talk about, oh, it's the Cadillac, oh, it's the Truist, right? Some of those storylines get lost. Whereas, Ryan Gerard and JT Poston, albeit probably nobody in the world was touting those guys coming into this week. I mean, I guess maybe there was a couple of people on Gerard, but JT had been nowhere. He had, he was like the regular USPS. He was like not out for delivery. And, when it comes down to it, like him breaking through there and having like a great signature win, pun intended, of his career was definitely a cool storyline. And hey, Jack's event, when you go out there, it is second to none. It is one of the highlights of my year. In many ways, it's better than the majors because the majors are so big and there's so many people that you don't get access to the players like you do at an event like that or an event like Riviera at a really, really cool spot with a very, very, very good golf course. One that has, has all the design geeks all freaked out. It has all the tournament people freaked out and has all the players' attention. And those are the types of places that hopefully when the PGA Tour does create tier 1, that they lean a lot into.
Some other news right now, I'm just reading it, that Marco Penge has withdrawn from the US Open. He's injured. He's going to get some scans, so he's out. Bad news for Adam Svensson, who could have been the first alternate and already got himself in.
That was exactly where I was going to go with that, for sure. Guy picked up his mark. Oh, buddy. Come on.
It's a tough scene for CoolBet's own Adam Svensson. By the way, you can get a deposit at CoolBet. I don't know if code Svensson works, but my code, Sports200, will work for a deposit bonus for you for this week and all weeks at coolbet.com if you're in Canada outside of Ontario. You
know what CoolBet should do, Pat?
What?
They should have a code Svensson, and then they should pick up your first bet.
That's a great idea, actually.
Just say
it. Are you the marketing team? What's going on here?
Hey, man, I have my moments, but
summer's actually the time of year when I notice bad sleep for me the most because the days are longer, the kids are running around nonstop, they're staying up later because it's so gloriously bright out throughout the course of the night, and then they tell me, it's not bedtime, it's not dark out, although that logic never applies in the wintertime when it gets 4:30 p.m. dark out. Now, does it, kids? But I'm outside more, I'm playing more golf, and if I don't get a good night's sleep, I feel awful the next day. It's one of the reasons I've been so happy with my Helix mattress. I've now had mine for a couple years, and it's been a massive upgrade from what I was sleeping on before. I fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, and I wake up feeling far more recovered. That's the important part. When you're trying to squeeze the most out of your summer, which I have to where I live, it's a pretty big deal to me. What I really like about Helix is they make it easy. Just take their sleep quiz and they'll match you with the mattress that's right for you and your sleep style and preferences. And the summer sale is going on at helixsleep.com right now. So go to helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/Mayo for 20% off. Make sure to enter the show name at checkout so they know we sent you. The Travelers Championship. Now is the time. This is the place. Every star, every round, every shot that makes your heart race as legends walk the fairways. Keegan Bradley, Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Cameron Young, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, and other PGA Tour greats, all battling to be called champion. See the world's best for all 4 days. No cut! You'll feel the pressure before the shot, the roar when it drops. You'll stand close enough to see it all, the intensity, the focus, the moment when everything comes down to mere inches, and where everything makes you part of the moment. It's golf at its best, up close, open to all, and only here. The excitement starts June 24th and runs through June 28th at TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut. For tickets and information, visit travelerchampionship.com. Now is the time. This is the place.
Let's get to Osprey Valley.
Before that, I do actually want to talk about the longest day in golf. I think that Golf Channel. I think the Golf Channel blows the coverage. I think it's horrible, and it should be amazing. And I don't understand why this isn't pushed as a real event.
So where do you think their deficits are?
They don't show any of the golf.
Oh,
They show a lot of commercials, and they seem to be absolutely bewildered about what's going on. And they'll pick 3 guys to cover who they really want to get in, and then that's it. They're not telling the story of any of what is happening.
so okay, I get where you're. This is a really good point. And this isn't pushback, but this is more of a question. You and I live in that world. We know people there. It's like at the Golf Channel. Is the Golf Channel raising their arm and saying, "Hey, we're covering this, right? But this is the USGA's event. This is like the PGA Tour, kind of fumbling the ball next week at Shinnecock." Well, it's like, well, I'm not really going to PGAtour.com for someone to cover the US Open. I'm going to the USGA website. So shouldn't the USGA be live streaming these, at least the last, final couple holes and everything? I mean, that might be a good business opportunity for them. I'm sure they've got money in the ivory tower, so up there in northern New Jersey. So I think that you bring up a really good point. I think there's more of an audience for that on one specific day than there is for a full tour of Live.
Probably, and you could probably throw some investment behind it. That I kind of forgot that it was happening, and I should know this because it's always the week of the Canadian Open on the Monday. I get prepared for this. I'm like, hey, U.S. Open's coming up. When's that qualifier happening again? And I know a few of them have happened. One happened overseas. One happened, I think, in Dallas a few weeks ago. But this is the day where everything goes out. And I can't listen. I would love, like you, to throw shade at the USGA on this, but they're not a broadcasting company. Obviously, Golf Channel has the rights to it if they're showing it on TV. They could put it. It looks like their production budget is $100 on it.
Well, that may be true.
I feel like if you just gave me live feeds and a live scoreboard of what was going on, I could host it from here and do a better job.
Well, there's very little doubt in my mind that if I was on site and I had some AirPods and we don't even need a camera and you and I could do a live stream, that people would be engaged. There would be no doubt about it. I mean, you could just stand on the 16th, 17th, and 18th holes at the end of the day and just have all these storylines play out. It's pretty incredible theater when you think about it. Some of the things that took place yesterday, even the Svensson story is a wild story. Max Homa was in it, lost in a playoff. You go back to a year ago and Cam Young, has to birdie his last 3 down the stretch. Then he wins this playoff and he gets into the US Open, but then he comes here and he plays great until the 72nd hole where he airmails the green. But then next thing you know, the guy's winning the Players. I mean, all sorts of crazy things can come out of this thing. And then there's a million names on there that I recognize from over the years from just all sorts of different golf stories. I can remember Rick Lamb was playing good down in Florida, and Rick Lamb's a lefty touring pro, that was on the Nationwide forever, that had played in a final qualifying that I was a part of a couple years ago. So that to me, those are just great. Those are just amazing, stories of people and perseverance that just keep trying year after year and everything. Charlie Woods was caddying for Miles Russell.
Oh no, I saw that. That I saw every shot of.
Shocker, yeah, that they hit on that. Your boy Kevin Roy He like he like stunned the field up there in New York City on 2 very difficult golf courses. All sorts of good stuff. You had Andrew Putnam, who's out in Oregon, who didn't get to finish till this morning. They had a playoff this morning, and now this guy's like probably at the top of everybody's model for first round leader up there at Osprey Valley. It's crazy.
I'll have my first round leader picks out in the newsletter on Wednesday. You can sub to that for free down in the description. You can also get the link to Keith's newsletter at Read the Line down in the description as well. Please go join it. Help us out on that front. But I think you just kind of hit on how this broadcast gets so much better. So the part that I had the hardest time with, even following it on my phone or my computer, that there wasn't one localized place where I could see, like, look, I get that maybe it seems a bit extreme to have all leaderboards on one page, so I don't have to flip between 7 of them and like that really goofy website every single time. But something like that could be very helpful, just to so I can monitor what's going on. I like to pay attention to this stuff. I'm sure I'm not alone in that regard. So if you have that, you can start to tell stories off of that. You have you who may know some of the guys in this field. I'm sure there's just a line of people at Golf Channel who are probably working on this production. Most of them probably been in the business 20, 25 years that recognize some of these names. You can tell those stories. All of a sudden, this is like a real 8-hour broadcast that's probably better than most PGA broadcasts.
There's definitely the ability to dive in more. You've got it.
And you can show shots. There's 7 fucking tournaments going on at the same time.
Oh, I mean. So let's talk about that for a second. Here are the names that stuck out in my mind from Monday. I already mentioned Roy and Grazerman, right? But I'm sure that your boy Feinberg is all over Emiliano Grillo this week.
No,
right?
Never. No, he's real bummed that Jesper Svensson had the. So how does it work when you see this a lot? The guys are DNP or they DNF. They just don't finish. Does that mean they're out of it? They're like, I don't want to waste my time anymore?
Correct. Yeah. Any tour player, they go out, they shoot, say they shoot even par. They're like, I know I need to shoot, like, depending on how hard the golf course is. They look at what the scores are. There's 4 spots, and they just quit. You know, they did not finish, or maybe they didn't feel like playing and getting into the U.S. Open. They're going to take a couple weeks off, and then they just don't show up. They do not play, or they withdraw prior to the tournament. But usually, I didn't see that many guys drop out yesterday, which is interesting. But that also tells you that there's a lot of guys at the bottom that like normally don't get to final qualifying, so they're going to get the most of their experience and be there all day.
There was a lot of guys in the Canadian one that I think there's like 4 or 5 of them because they're playing this week down the road.
Yeah, not only that, but you know, they're all tour players and they got in there. That was the one that had the most tour players. I think it also had the most spots. It had what, 6?
6, yeah.
6 qualifying spots is a lot. Conversely speaking, you think about Oregon had 2 spots. Right. So, Grillo, Homa lost out in the playoff there. Homa would be a good fit for this golf course this week.
I like Homa this week. I did the deep dive on him on the research show this week, and his driving is back. The putting is like kind of up and down, but you would expect him to putt. And the approach has gone from like disastrously bad to incrementally getting better. Still not good, but not as bad, to really bad to kind of bad to slightly bad to about neutral. So he's getting better.
I mean, his swing coach, Mark Blackburn, has been very positive on Max lately in my conversations with him. So Mark is not one to mince words or glorify things that don't, he knows, he knows what good golf is. And I mean, obviously he teaches Rose, Fitzpatrick, couple of pretty good players, and they've been working hard on Max, and Max is definitely trending. He could definitely be somebody that, like, in that summer season, if he plays a bunch of events that we're going to be talking about more and more. Maryland, Jackson Suber. How about the Ben Cole story? The guy wins Corn Ferry, doesn't even get to celebrate with his family, has to get on a plane and fly up to Maryland, and then he goes and he qualifies there at Woodmont. Down in Florida, Ben Silverman, Canadian. Now he's flying back up to Toronto, right? But there's a guy that could be a really good placement this week or good DraftKings play down at the bottom of the board.
The other guy that qualified from Florida was Giuseppe. I like this guy.
Yeah, he had a great story, and his whole family liked standing around him, and when they were going through all that. I mean, could you, this would be great if the Mayo Media Network covered it, and you sent one of each of us, like, Dude, like, could you imagine the one that, like, Kemi Kim and, like, Byron were covering? We would send them to, like, the Oregon one, and, like, oh my god. I mean, could you imagine?
Well,
Like,
I think it would be better just if we send Feinberg by himself on location. It would be him with his like weird strap fanny pack thing, holding YouTube on his phone up and just pacing around like a maniac the entire time. And then he just wouldn't be able to grasp what was going on.
and he would be wearing his TGL sweatshirt, of course. He'd have to. All right, Putnam I already mentioned, and then Georgia. No Kashmir yesterday because I'm sure it was hot as hell, but Keith Mitchell gets in. But the other one that caught my eye was Chris Kirk. Guy shot 64-65 in order to get in and was medalist from that site. And we're coming to a golf course this week, which was a bit of I wouldn't say a wedge fest, but a scoring iron fest last year, which is right in his wheelhouse. Now, I know you're going to push back and say Chris Kirk can't putt, and you're going to be 1,000% correct. But should this be the miracle week that he figures out how to like break even with the flat stick? That level of acumen, or maybe he did on Monday, that level of acumen with his wedge play and putting the ball in play off the tee, he interests me, and he's at a big number.
He is at a big number. I think I would prefer the Max Homa side of that conversation, even though he didn't qualify. And I think that, well, you can probably speak to this. You've been in these qualifiers before for the U.S. Open, haven't you?
Yes. Long time ago, but yes.
But
Yeah.
how much mental energy goes into it? Because we saw Cam Young win one and compete at the Canadian Open that week. I don't remember a whole lot of the other guys doing also well.
Well, it's much like a Monday qualifier for like Corn Ferry. When those guys get in, they're on such an emotional high. Most of the guys that got in, say it's Griot or Kirk or not the ones that have been playing really, really well lately, like a Putnam or something like that, but like guys that maybe like Cam Young last year needed a little bit of a kick in the pants in order to like kind of spur them on. They're going to be extremely high for like the next like week or so, and then they'll have that like kind of emotional dump, we'll say, and fatigue dump at some point. But they could definitely carry that into this week and play well for sure. Carrying it for 2 weeks into Shinnecock, that seems like a tall order. But definitely I've seen it many, many times, coached many players that, get into a Corn Ferry event and then like they are high as kites. They are like super good. They feel great about their game. They get into the field. They're not playing against Scotty Scheffler. And then they go and they play very, very well.
That's great, but there's a lot of good players in this field is the thing. It's not like they're playing in a Corn Ferry event. They're playing against, I would say it's one of the strongest non-signature events of the year.
Well, some of the names we have mentioned, Pat, are already PGA Tour winners.
They are,
So,
but some of them are from a while ago or in lesser events. Like you got real guys you got to beat this week. Coming off an emotional high or an emotional low of what happened a week ago.
contrary to some podcasts, they're all real guys playing every week in real events, whether we downplay them or not. But there's a pretty good field this week. 45 of the top 100 the week before the U.S. Open. A lot of these guys probably aren't even playing in the U.S. Open.
A lot of them wouldn't be, but like the top 20 guys in this field are all very good.
Yes. And if you take out what's there, 20 Canadians in the field, so probably 15 of those are through local qualifiers and some sort of route to get in that field outside of the PGA Tour. Now you're making the field. Well, the field's up to 147 now.
Thank you, Brooks.
Yes, but it was 142. It went to 145. I thought that was the Brooks number, and then today it jumped to 147.
Yeah, there's stuffing guys in this tournament.
I mean, everyone's complaining about we're just reducing field size. Field jumped 5 guys this week.
This is great.
Good. Anyway,
I appreciate that, and this is why we've spoken about that the Canadian Open can never be a signature event because it needs to be a national open. Like guys from around, hell, you can be American and try to qualify too, I suppose, but everyone from around Canada goes and tries to qualify for this, just like they try to do for the Scottish Open or the Open Championship. It just tends to be easier to qualify for the Canadian Open than the US Open.
Yeah, I'm bummed it doesn't have 156. It should have a full field. I mean, we're not worried about daylight up in Canada right now.
No.
What time does the sun set up there right now? 9:00 at night?
Yeah, 8:45, 9.
Yeah. I mean, 156 guys we could have fit. It was 142 to start the week. Anyway, let's do some names before the comment section gets irate.
Oh, don't worry about them. They're fine.
Fair enough.
So this is the part that I'm confused about with the weather.
Okay.
That we're going to get rain overnight into Thursday. It's going to dampen things down. Then you have like sustained 15 up to 25 mile per hour gusts. That should make it pretty challenging. Does that shift? Because we're looking back at last year when it was benign conditions and guys were able to hit it wherever they want. Approach play rated out as, I think, the easiest on tour for everyone. That it became a driving and putting competition. By and large, even if you weren't the longest hitter, as long as you were accurate and made your putts, you were still fine. Do you think that with the increased wind, we should be looking at a different style of player?
Is it going to be as soft as last year? No, but it's still going to be softer. Is it going to be windier than last year? Yes.
By a lot.
Is that going to bring the fescue into play and almost give you this kind of like poor man's Shinnecock preview? I think it might, Pat. And I think that, a lot of people are talking about total driving. They want to go with bombers. They look at the length of the golf course, and I knew this conversation was going to come up. Only one of the 4 rounds played longer than the official scorecard yardage last year. And it was soft, and there was no wind. So did they move it up because it was soft? Because if anything, those guys don't need you to move it up when it's soft. They need you to move it up when it's like blowing 30. So I don't think that length is going to be as much of a factor unless you're like Michael Brennan and then you hit every fairway at 320, right? I think that, and I'm not saying it's going to be an Andrew Putnam contest, but I think somewhere in the middle of that, like those guys that have the ability to really, really score at 150 yards and putt are going to be your best option. I think that truly is who we're talking about. So, a lot of those guys are sitting in that mid range, which is nice. There's some value there. Does that mean that somebody who's like one of the most talented guys in the field, like Sam Burns, can't go and get himself in a playoff and miss a 6-footer on the first hole in order to win the thing and not earn us any money? Sure, that could happen again. But I think he'll play very well. I think his style of golf fits very well. But I think if you're trying to pick like 10 guys to make the cut, I would take 10 guys that hit it around 300 yards, that are hyper accurate, that are really good from 150 yards, and can putt with a relatively, above average floor. That's where I would be looking.
So I'm on the rabbit hole right now, and you can be on the rabbit hole this week and get 1 week at the rabbit hole at betspertsgolf.com for $1 right now with code Canada. If you do it today, that gives you the Canadian Open and the US Open. So if you want to put the stats, the tools, everything to good use at betspertsgolf.com, now is the time to do that. Betspertsgolf.com, code Canada to get it for $1 for this week. You won't be disappointed in that. So if I go to off the tee, and I sort by what do you think the best is just straight up driving accuracy the best thing to look at? Because I know that we've talked about distance from the edge of the fairway before as a very predictive metric of who's actually better at it. Because some guys honestly aren't even trying to hit the fairway a lot of the time at certain courses.
They're actually not. They're taking such aggressive lines and just like cost averaging the fact that, well, if I miss,
No
I'll
big
make
deal.
par. I'll make par, no big deal. And then if I actually hit the fairway, then I'm going to make a birdie. 8 of the top 10 last year were in the top 25 for accuracy. 7 of the top 10 were in the top 25 for distance. The combination of distance and accuracy is total driving. I think this is a good golf course for total driving.
So
I think.
So
and
that
I would also.
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
And then I would just, whatever we do, can we please filter for par 70 scoring?
Well, is this fair to list as a par 70 for terms of scoring? Because it's going to be one of the longest par 70s on tour.
Why do we use par 70 scoring?
I don't know.
What do you lack and what do you gain?
You lack par 5s.
Yep.
And you gain on par 3s. So if by that metric, Nikolai Højgaard should win.
I mean, he's probably on my card, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. My point being is that par 70 scorecard has a certain skill set, and you could call it a scoring one if you want, but it's generally speaking, it's more par 4s and it's less par 5s. And there's a certain type of player that's very good at that. And then there's a certain type of player that's good at par 5 scoring, and they like their 4 par 5s and they like less par 4s. So I think would you go to Colonial and not filter for par 70?
Yeah, but I feel like that's more in line with an actual par 70 course. Like when I think par 70, I just think not as long, but this one is long. Like you see very few par 70s that have like 6 par 4s that are over 480 yards.
Well, 4 of them are over 500 yards, but here's the thing. The range buckets last year, and it played soft, Pat, were like right around 150 yards. That's crazy. That's how far they hit it off the tee. And Andrew Putnam was in the top 10. And we know he doesn't hit it out of his shadow. So, like, yeah, I'm sure his range buckets were off, but the average range buckets where guys were hitting their approach shots from their iron shots were in that like 150 range. That's a 9-iron or a wedge. Or for Ryan Gerard, it's like his lob wedge. I mean, seriously. Like, speaking of which, that was a great like bomb he just yelled back at the guy. That social media clip. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Not in the
if you haven't
bunker.
seen
Not in the bunker. I wish he would have said pal, but he said dog. That kind of ruined it, but just the pal would have landed really hard.
Powell would have been more condescending, but the dog wasn't it wasn't favorable either.
So here's some guys. So here are some guys right now. If we go to off the
Yep.
tee, and we sort, I'm going to sort by accuracy, and actually, I'll go to total driving. So Rico Hoey is your best guy in the field, a guy that I played a head-to-head against on CoolBet this week because he's currently not hitting his irons well at all and putting a little bit. Don't think that's super sustainable for Rico Hoey.
Yeah.
But other guys I've been all around this week, and one of them was a guy that won his U.S. Open qualifier. I like him a lot this week. I do not have a bet in on him yet, but I think it might either be first round leader or a winning bet with 8 places, something like that. Is Neil Shipley?
Shipley drives it great. I mean, that's certainly his superpower. There's no doubt about it. He played very, very well there. He's in Ohio, where he's obviously a hero, having come out of Ohio State. Shipley, he has the driver game that you would want if you were, Frankensteining this thing. He or Michael Brennan or somebody like that, some guy that just bombs it and hits it super, super straight. That is definitely one of the skills we're looking for. Now, if he doesn't have a good wedge scoring game or a good putter, then we can pull back on that driver and we need to lean in more to the other elements that we're talking about. But for a golf course that has 6 par 4s over 480 and 2 reachable par 5s that bookend the golf course, 1 and 18, and for 2 par 3s over 225. Don't forget that 11th hole. That thing last year was like clean up on aisle 11. It had like 25 double bogeys. Had a couple others. Guys kept on getting up on that left hillside with the fescue. It was insane. That was like I wanted a GoPro just on that tee. I mean, it was unbelievable. Anyway, a highlight I'm looking forward to about going back to the North Course. I think that, you could say Shipley, but, at least Brennan has shown signs of being, like if you want to go with this like hyper super driver, then I just need some guys that can hit it with a relative amount of proximity from 150 yards, Pat.
I get that, but this turned out to be one of the easier approach courses on tour. So maybe if you've been struggling with your approach play, almost how like the Poe greens end up becoming a bit of an equalizer for some shitty putters because it bounces. Like if you're just not experienced, that some of the best putters in the world just get absolutely flummoxed by Pebble Beach greens, where guys you would just never anticipate could ever make a putt, all of a sudden they're like walking them in. That this course, per the numbers at least, through 1 year, and maybe that sample is just off, and we have already said the conditions are going to be different this year, but maybe approach is just easier here.
So if approach is easier, and I lead the field in approach, did it get harder for me? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that I feel like the distribution of approach play is going to be narrowed this week. That's how it feels like. And that's what the numbers told us, that being first in approach was less important at TPC Toronto. Now, listen, being first in approach is always going to be good. It's like being first in putting. Like if you're first in around the green, you're probably going to have a really good week. But the difference between being first in approach at TPC Toronto and being first in approach at Augusta are two way different things versus what the rest of the field is going to do.
I'm being partially facetious. I get it. You're raising the floor for the average approach guy when the golf course does get easier. Same thing with putting. Same thing, the converse of that when you talk about putting, mitigates good putters when you go to a place like Augusta National because it's just too hard. Right. So the easier you make it, it does make it easier for other parts of the field. I get all of that. I also still think that, you look back at that leaderboard and yes, some guys had some ball speed or whatever, but it really was guys that they all spiked on putting. All the guys at the top of the board spiked on putting. So I'm sure we can agree on that. We need really, really good bonus putting this week. Make everything inside 5 feet, and can we make something over 20? Like, and how often can we do that? Can we go plus 12 with the putter like Wyndham Clark at, at TPC Craig Ranch? It's funny. Everyone keeps comparing this place to like TPC Craig Ranch. And I feel like there's a lot more similarities between here and like Memorial Park almost than there is like TPC Craig Ranch. But I mean, maybe that's just me.
I think the difference between this and Memorial Park is you cannot spray it here. And you can at Memorial Park. Like, you can hit it over, be behind trees at Memorial Park. It's like not a big deal. There's no rough at Memorial Park.
This is true. Okay. But I just, from the approach length in and the favoring and talking so much about the ball speed and everything, and you look at like a kid, like, sell me on Johnny Kiefer. Well, like the way he played there kind of matches up with the way I'd like him to play here.
Well, and the way he played at Craig Ranch, I think would go along with that.
True.
But I think that's more that when you take a look at his overall numbers, his ball striking is just off the charts good, which when we get into wind, are you more of someone who, and I bet on 2 of these Euros already this week, that the European type player who can grind in the wind, who can figure out how to play that way versus your classic American style player who's going to hit it as high as possible. And they're not very good at adapting their game because they play so many similar courses. Or do you just lean on the exquisite ball striker? Because if you're a great ball striker, you can just pierce it through that wind.
Man, I want some wind experience. You got to be able to prove to me you can play in the wind. So if you're going to go after Johnny Kiefer and the kid's an unbelievable ball striker, and he's obviously trending right now in both those categories of approach and off the tee. I also want to know, I'd also want to look back at his Korn Ferry career and be like, okay, did he also, have some of those great rounds in the wind? Because it's not windy every day. And, so to answer your question, I would lean more on the guys that have proven it before. And I know you could filter for it there on the rabbit hole. I would filter for some wind. If we think by the time we get to late Wednesday night that it's going to blow as much as it says it is. And I mean, it's all 4 days. So at some point, you're probably going to get at least 50% of the days that you're going to have some serious wind to deal with and some rain. So it doesn't look like there's a wave advantage because the wind is around like 70% of the playing day. For most of those days. Sunday, it's a little bit later, but that's when the leaders are going anyway. And you'd really want the guy to be good in the wind.
Using metrics for this is one thing, but you're going to get a lot of guys in this field who simply don't have enough rounds to really make it statistically significant, even if you go back over the past 2 years, that if you were just going off of vibes, let's say, and you had to take what style of player would you want in the wind? I'm guessing it would be Euro guy.
Yeah, I'd want Tommy Fleetwood. I'd want a guy that really controls trajectory and spin.
What about someone like I've bet, like Alex Noren?
Yeah. I mean, Noren's trending right now.
Bobby Mack?
No, definitely not.
Why? Okay, why not? Because Bobby Mack is Sam Burns. Like I went through the stats profile; they're the same guy.
Not right now.
No,
I totally agree with what you're saying.
But that could
but
flip
not right now.
At an easy approach course. Could that flip?
Bobby Mack hasn't been since the Valero weekend, where we all bet him and he came in second and there was a massive collapse. He goes miscut at Augusta. He's like T42, T60, miscut, T42, miscut. Which part of that has anything to do with Sam Burns, who was in the second to last group at Augusta, right? Like has been relevant in many of these signature events leading up. And he was just relevant this past weekend and playing well at Memorial, heading back to a golf course that he obviously played well last year. And he's gearing up for a U.S. Open that he probably feels like got stolen from him last year because those USGA officials sent him back out in a swamp, because NBC had the television rights. I didn't bet him in both places. Kidding me? I mean, like, it was unbelievable last year. Burns is, again, I get it. Like, the comparison you're making when they're both playing well, Bobby Mack is very similar to Sam Burns. Bobby Mack's just not Bobby Mack right now.
He's not, because the approach play is down. And I don't know what has happened to his irons. You mentioned Valero. He hit that shot on 18 at Valero trying to go for the green and 2, and it like ended his season somehow in terms of approach play. But again, if we're at a place where I think that approach can be a little bit easier, he's still driving it immaculately. He's one of the best total drivers in the field. And
Sure.
Burns is as he's wont to do, is a lot of heavy lifting right now is being done by his putter. And he's finally started to hit his approaches pretty well. And that's why he's trending upwards right now. But at his best, Bobby Mack is a reasonable iron player, good around the greens, great at driving, great at putting. That's also Sam Burns. But now you get one at 3 times the price.
Or, okay, let's bring up a name that we talked about earlier. You want a great driver and you want a great putter and a guy that's pretty good with his wedges. Why not go Nikolai Højgaard instead of Bobby Mack if we're looking for Europeans?
I'm not saying that I'm not going to go Nikolai Højgaard.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not there yet, though. It sounds like you want to put the hard sell on Nikolai.
I do like Nikolai this week. One of my favorite golf swings out there. Doesn't matter really which Højgaard it is, but I do prefer Nikolai's golf swing a little bit more than Rasmus's from a technical perspective, although they're very similar. But certainly one of my favorite golf swings to watch. I don't get the baggy pants, but hey, they're not in the way of the golf swing. So by all means, have at it, buddy, with the fashion. But Højgaard, a guy that fits this type of golf course where he can get out and play, swing with the big boys, and then he knows how to score on this type of golf course. You put him on a golf course that kind of, pulls him in, right? Not the best choice of words there, even though I tried, right? Like reins him in, like Rory, the way Rory comments about Muirfield Village, he's like, yeah, I don't get to hit driver as much as I want. Well, if Rory came here and he didn't miss the cut last year, and he was like paying attention to what he was doing and not making eights, then this would be a perfect place for him, similar to the way that, coming in last year, we were like, oh man, Ludwig and Roy are perfect for this joint, let him use the driver a ton. What was the driver used 81% of the time last year?
Yeah.
By the field.
81%, one of the highest on tour.
Yeah. So the guys that love to hit driver, those are the guys that you want. And then, if they have the ability to control trajectory with, their scoring irons, 9-iron, wedge, gap wedge, maybe a little 8-iron in there. Those are the guys that you really want. And, a little bit of love with the putter would be great. But I think in this wind, you're going to really need those first two.
So if we had to look at, we'll go back to total driving for a second. The top 15 players over the past 4 months in total driving that are in this field, according to the rabbit hole, which are just the stats, so filtered easily for you. You can get those. You can go do this yourself. BetsRitzGolf.com. Code Canada. $1 right now. If we play this Family Feud style, can you give me the top 15 guys?
The top 15. All right, I'm going to go. I'll go with a newbie. Is Alex Fitz on that list?
He is number 1 on the list.
Ding, 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 ding. You should do a better impression of Steve Harvey. I'll move along. Taylor Pendrith, Rico Hoey, Ryan Fox.
Oh, Fox is not on there. The other 3 are. The other 3 are all inside the top 11. Kiefer also is not. We got Brennan and Shipley.
Oh, come on. Fisk is on there, I bet. Fleetwood. Did I say Fleetwood already?
Fleetwood and Fisk, not there. You got Wrighton. Oh, Fleetwood is there. Sorry. Fleetwood, Bobby Mack, Justin Rose, Thorbjornsen, Wrighton, Nakajima, Doug Gim, Jordan Smith, and Chairman Mao are your entire list.
Now, for those of you that listen and you care about total driving over the last couple of months on par 70 golf courses, no, not the last couple of months, all year on par 70 golf courses, right? The names that I was listing were the names that were on that top 10.
So you were looking at something while trying to guess?
No, I looked it up before the start of the week.
Okay.
That's what I wanted. I wanted total drivers on par 70 golf courses, guys that basically fit the mold for what we're looking for this week.
Okay, but I guess my pushback on that would be most par 70 courses feature a lot of clubbing down, just inherently because they tend to be shorter courses versus everything else. What if we were to do par 70 but put it on a driver-heavy course?
You could do that too, but if you look at my list, Pendrith, Fitz, Hoey, Fox, Kiefer, Cam Davis, Shipley, Fisk, Brennan, those are not club down guys, Pat.
No, but that makes it easy. They're not going to be hitting right now. I put in par 70 for the year driver heavy courses. No one has more than 8 rounds. Kiefer does jump up there.
It wasn't recent. I think I did it for the year or something.
Yeah, that is for this year only. But that's just that's why I think that this par 70 is a little bit different because you're going to see, and a lot of the guys, obviously, like some of the bigger hitters, if you force driver out of their hands, like we saw that with Brennan at Colonial, and Potgieter at Colonial too, that you take driver out of their hands. It turns out they can smash a 3-wood or a hybrid or whatever the hell they're hitting too.
Yeah. Potgieter's interesting. Hasn't played in a while.
I thought he played, didn't he play at Colonial and played well?
I thought his last event was the PGA. You can fact check me on that, but
yeah, you're
somebody
right.
will.
Yeah. I mean, he had that. He was in it at the PGA, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was like 36-hole leader or something, or top 5. He was definitely top 5 after 36 holes.
Can tell you didn't finish inside the top 30 of that tournament.
No, he did not. But when you start thinking about, you brought up Detroit earlier. A place that you could attack with driver, kind of have to put it in the fairway, but then once you do, you hit a lot of wedges, you hit a lot of 9-irons into greens, and then those greens are way more severe than these greens. But if Potgieter had more reps recently, he might be a guy to look into.
Do you think that they might want to get rid of Detroit just to make sure that Cam Davis can never play on tour again?
When he popped up on this list, I was like, oh man, I thought that guy was dead. I had no idea. I had no idea.
Starting something new is terrifying. I remember right before launching this show thinking, what if no one listens? What if it completely flops? And that's something that has persisted every time that I hit record and go to edit a show, even as I'm recording this right now. It never goes away. But taking that leap ended up being one of the best decisions I ever made. And honestly, having something like Shopify back then would have made it a whole lot easier. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses. Whether you're just getting started or scaling up, you can build a clean, professional store with ready-to-use templates that actually match your brand. No coding headaches. And it's not just a storefront. Shopify's got built-in AI tools to help write product descriptions, improve your pages, even upgrade your images. Plus, you can run email and social campaigns right from the platform like you've got a full marketing team behind you. That would have been great like 15 years ago, not gonna lie to you. Best part, everything lives in one place. Inventory, payments, analytics, so you're not juggling 5 different tools to run your business. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/PatMayo. Go to shopify.com/PatMayo. That's shopify.com/PatMayo. Season's changing, which means I need to flip my entire wardrobe, and I looked at my closet and I started thinking, why do I own so much junk that I never actually wear? I've been trying to scale it back. Fewer things, but better stuff. And honestly, that's why I keep going back to Quince over and over. Their pieces just make sense. The fabric feels legit, real quality, not that fake premium marketing nonsense that they send me on Instagram. That stuff sucks. What you want is super breathable, really comfortable clothing that looks sharp without trying too hard. Even the Flow Knit activewear. That's the sneaky one for me. It's soft, moisture wicking, doesn't stink, and you can wear it all day and not feel gross, which is a big win for me. The kicker is the price. It's like 50 to 60% less than what you'd expect to pay for this level of quality because they cut out the middleman and go straight to the source. So you're not paying for a logo, you're paying for good clothes. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/mayo for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/mayo. Quince.com/mayo. Here are the bets that I have in so far. The finalized list will be in my cheat sheet, which should get emailed to everyone that is a sub to the free Mayo Media newsletter. Do that on Substack or just hit the description, find it there. Keith's newsletter is there as well. I only have 4 bets in. I only made 4 bets last week and won some money, so that was good news. Shout out Alex Fitzpatrick. He was so good to me, Keith. I'm going back to him again this week. I bet him at 45-1. He has dropped in some markets to 35. 40 might be your best number now. However, if you're in Canada, outside of Ontario, and you go to coolbet.com, you can hit the description, get your bonus code, and throw it all on the PME boost of the week. Alex Fitzpatrick up to 48-1 to win the Canadian Open. Keith, he's been better than Matt Fitzpatrick has over the past 2 months.
He has, and he definitely would be somebody that's going to be all over my card. For sure. Outright, they'll find out tomorrow, but like, he's a placement play. He's a DFS play. I mean, the guy's been producing, and he's doing the things that we've been talking about all episode, and he's sitting down here at 40. So that 48's a great number up there. And, in Canada if you're outside of Toronto. I'll give
Outside
you
of
some number.
Ontario. Now,
Whatever.
all of Ontario is not
Ontario.
just Toronto, Keith.
Whatever. Okay.
It's like saying all Jersey is Trenton.
Hey, what Trenton makes, the world takes. How do you feel about Victor Hovland this week?
I am not touching a guy coming off of a back injury that I barely knew anything about anyway. It feels like I could be wrong, and Victor Hovland could be great here, or he could be using this to test out his back to see how he's going to do next week.
Yeah, I would go with the latter there, but it's just, I don't know. Anyway, I don't
Great
think
course
he's
for him.
Great course for him. Yeah. All right.
But my other,
go with
go
your bets.
I got Alex Noren at 38-1, win only.
Okay.
Max Grazerman 66-1 with 5 placements, and then I bet Jackson Suber at 125-1 with 8 places. Those are my 4 bets in. And what I'm feeling right now is that I'm around that Bobby Mack Nikolai area. I'm not going to bet Lowry, although I do like him this week. And then I got like the Mac Meisner, Michael Brennan. Who was the other guy that was up there? And that Johnny Kiefer, like that style of player. And then Max Homa was another one that I really wanted to give some. I'm going to bet Neil Shipley when this is over. So Neil Shipley is 225-1 with 8 places on Neil Shipley is a bet that I will be making as well. But I need to fill out the top there. It seems like you're in on Nikolai. I want to be on Nikolai. Or do I say, screw it? Wyndham Clark's been playing so good. Just bet Wyndham Clark.
Well, we haven't brought him up yet, but I mean, this is a perfect golf course for Wyndham Clark, and Wyndham Clark feels good about Wyndham Clark right now. There's no doubt about that. I mean, what he did last week in Memorial to finish third, and just was attacking that golf course with so much confidence. And the putter's good. And what was he? Number 1 tee to green, number 1 approach in the field for the week. Those are the moments when you bet Wyndham Clark, and I'm pretty sure he's done this before, win in May and June, right? So those were 4 weeks apart or 4 starts apart, but these are only a couple starts apart. But yeah, I think Wyndham Clark makes a lot of sense. I think Nikolai makes a lot of sense. And further down the board, it's tough for me to ignore. And this goes back to one of your original questions was like, are we looking for more of like a positional guy and then rely on total approach and putting? And in that case, one of the guys I really like is Eric Cole. I mean, the guy's been unbelievable lately. And if it turns into a putting fest and you've got to hit your scoring irons well, he's doing it as good as anyone on the PGA Tour right now over the last couple months.
I just can't bet him at this number. For a guy that can't win, like, no thanks.
Is it his hair?
It's just he's not. Some guys just aren't winners, Keith. He's one of them.
Oh, man.
It'd be like putting your money behind Denny McCarthy.
Ooh. Man, that would be, because they're both really good putters.
Yeah.
But Cole's such a better approach player. That'd be a good head-to-head match.
Here's my issue with Cole is that you'd think for his profile, he'd be all over hitting fairways. He doesn't hit fairways. That's real bad for his skill set here.
Yeah, but he's gained with the driver in his last couple. And I mean, everything else is green, man. If you look across the board, everything is green. And I have a feeling this thing is going to go sideways. And at that point, yeah, the driver could cost me. But I'm sure there's people that you're betting where the putter could cost him. Or other people that are listening to this, right? Like,
absolutely, but they're just not in that range. Like, listen, at the same price, you can bet Eric Cole, you can bet Alex Noren for exactly the same price. And listen, a prolific winner Alex Noren, I know. Although he did win, he won Wentworth last year, so that's something against one of the best fields of the year at one of the harder courses. I would rather take, because that's a guy who does hit fairways, is an equivalent approach player and just as good of a putter.
Yeah.
With some real one guy is ranked like 13th in the world, and the other guy's like 100th.
Yeah, no, I get it. I wonder why Alex Noren hasn't won though on the PGA Tour. Was he won 10 times?
Yeah, worldwide.
DP World.
It's always funny. It'd be like if Jordan Smith won this week. That Jordan Smith is like a prolific loser in Europe. I think he's won twice in 10 years, but he was on leaderboards every single week. For those 10 years, he'd be 3rd, he'd be 6th, he'd be 8th, he'd be 2nd, whatever. He just couldn't get across the finish line. Now he did twice. That it would be hilarious that just all of a sudden his first year on the PGA Tour, he just wins.
So as I look at this on the board down here, Hogard is right next to Noren, and that's why I went with Hogard. But for me, Cole is all the way up at 48.
Okay, I'm seeing different numbers than that. I'm seeing these guys like 5 points apart.
Yeah, no, but they're more like 12 apart down here.
So
Or
so
10
I
apart.
guess it would come down to, do you like, so for me, it would come down to, do I like the Eric Cole or Michael Brennan, Michael Thorbjornsen, Mac Meisner type of player better? I like those other 3 player betters to win. Now, if we're playing top
Yeah.
5s, we're playing top 10s, sure, Eric Cole is probably your more reliable option. But if I'm trying to bet someone to win the tournament, I'd rather those guys.
Man, Eric Cole has played great golf, and I hope he learned something from Colonial. That's where I'm going.
Hopefully, he didn't take too many lessons about what happened at Colonial, because then he won't win.
We learn more from our failures than our successes, Pat.
I feel like that's not the case in golf.
You want to do one and dones?
Yeah, let's do one and done. I'm having a bad few months here in one and done. It'd be nice to hit one. At least something good. Like, it's not even been good for me recently.
I mean, I'm in some smaller pools where I'm doing fairly well, but the larger ones, Ben Griffin last week, forget it.
Did Ben Griffin miss the cut last week?
Missed the cut. Fully jacked.
Listen, I had Justin Thomas. I was big on Justin Thomas. And if Justin Thomas had just played every day like he did on Sunday, he would never lose a tournament.
Well,
You just had to get him 20 shots off the lead and then fire. Couldn't be stopped.
I mean, how many backdoor top 10s does JT have in his career?
I think that there's something to that, because the same case was made about Rory for all the years too. It's like, oh, what a backdoor top 10 merchant. Like, guys also won 6 fucking majors. Like,
Well,
maybe showing the ability to backdoor these things and shoot super low rounds in tough conditions is indicative of someone who can win tournaments.
I think you're being really hard on yourself, Pat. You said JT was going to win.
I did. I just, I need to be not as direct. I just need to be a bit more vague, and then I can claim victory on everything.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go Burns this week because I have no other place to use him.
Yeah,
And I think he'll play well.
I think Burns or Clark are
Burns
probably.
or Clark makes sense. We're getting to that point in the season where, what's left on the shelf type of thing.
Well, I can tell you, I'm in the $1,000 one and I'm still in the money because no one had JT. No one in the race for the Mayo Cup. 5,555 people made picks. Not one person picked JT Poston. So
One?
Not one.
What does that tell you? That's an indictment on JT.
Well, good for him. It was a fun story. I was really rooting for Gerard, though. Gerard's a better winner of that event if he wins. You talk about story, like what he put together, and Nance alluded to it briefly on the broadcast, but I thought they could have done a better job of really hammering home what he did to get himself into the Masters. With his win last year at an alt event, having to go to Mauritius, playing like every event to start the year to make sure that he stays in that bucket. And he kind of fizzled out for a while and kind of screwed him at the Masters for a while. And now he's kind of getting it back together. He's a good young American player, and he's got a bit of fire to him. JT Poston has no fire, and maybe that's what you need for golf. But he's like a me-sized Dustin Johnson out there. Like, okay, that's great.
Well, I tell you, Ryan Gerard kind of is following that Cam Young pattern. Whereas, we were talking about Ryan Gerard. Remember, he was the favorite at Cognizant, and I said he came in the press room, and it was like, oh man, this guy looks like a deer in headlights, right? He couldn't putt good, he couldn't chip good, but he was striking the heck out of it, right? He's got his kind of quirky swing. We love it. So did Jim Furyk, guy made $70 million. Quirky swings, you watch out for those people. They own their golf swing, right? That's usually not the problem. But Ryan Gerard is like top 5 in strokes gained putting over the last couple of months. I mean, the guy's transformed his game. He matches that up with the ball striking. You're going to hear Ryan Gerard's name a couple more times over the summer. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the guy's strong.
Well, if we were playing the U.S. Open at Oakmont again, he'd be perfect.
Yeah.
But we're not, so that's a problem.
No, yeah, we're going to Shinnecock.
Yeah.
You better get your wind list out for that. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, maybe this will be good prep for them.
Well, it didn't look like it at first, but now, knee-high fescue, put it in a fairway, wide landing areas, but put it in a fairway, and then tons of wind. You're going to find out whether or not Tommy Fleetwood's ready for Shinnecock this week. And that's a good thing for us. That's what we want to look for.
So in the $1,000 one and done, I'm looking at the top 5 guys on the betting board in terms of odds. Fleetwood, Fitz, Burns, Clark, and Morikawa. I've used 4 of those guys already, so only Wyndham Clark is available to me. But even in the second range, there's a few names that we didn't even bring up on this show that I think that are worthy of discussion. You're out on Bobby Mack. I'm not. I'm still figuring out what to do. A lot of people have bet Wrighton this week coming off another really excellent adventure like Bill and Ted at Memorial. Rose and Brooks are just there. Rose was good last week. He just couldn't putt.
So yeah, Rose is the guy I just don't want to do anything this week. Right? Like, just make the cut, finish T42, do everything quietly, and just walk to Southampton, New York. Like, just do everything you can quietly this week. I don't want any brokers on any boards, on any odds boards looking at that guy whatsoever. He was good last week at Memorial. And I saw him on the range with those McLaren irons, or maybe they're just like painted over of his old version of his irons or whatever it was, man. But he was hitting it very nicely. And there were some guys that weren't, and he was. And, Wyndham Clark hits his iron. Wyndham Clark never hits his irons good. He's a good driver of the golf ball, pretty good scorer, right? Good aggressive player. Justin Rose looks like he's getting ready for something, and that's a good fit. Good wind player, good, proven U.S. Open player. I completely don't want Justin Rose to do anything this week. I want him to be as quiet as possible.
You got Bridgman, Lowry, and Brooks sitting there as well for this tournament. All guys. Lowry, Lowry's condition-wise would perfectly fit this, but why not Brooks? Like, maybe he putts this week. Maybe.
Yeah, could be. Bridgman's not been putting lately, which has been the problem. But Brooks and Lowry, I would take Lowry over Brooks just for consistency's sake. This seems to me like the type of week that Brooks would use this for prep for next week.
Yeah, but eventually he has to start. Listen, the prep has been there. Like, tee to green wise, he's been excellent, which is going to play a huge factor this week. It's can he make it's not even that he has to make a lot of 12-foot putts. It's can he make a 12-foot putt? That would be nice. Putt. Just one. Make one for me, Brooks, and all of a sudden, everyone's going to be back in. But this, on paper, is a really good course for him.
100%. And can you make, how about one putt a day? Can we ask for that?
So who should I go with in the big one here? I think everyone's going to use Wyndham Clark. I'm currently sitting in 8th. I need to make a move back up the board. So I'm actually going to burn
Alex Fitz.
No, I think that he'll be the 3rd or 2nd most popular play as well. A lot of people are it's not just us in on Alex Fitz this week. I'm going to take Noren as my one and done and see how that works out for me in that contest. Just because I need to now we're getting late enough in the year that I need to be a little bit different if I want to make up some ground.
Oh yeah, if you're in the makeup ground land, for sure. I got a name.
And I was going to say, even for next week, not that I think that Wyndham Clark is going to win, but I want to leave him on the table. I'm not using Noren next week. There's a chance I use Wyndham Clark.
Next week, man. There's so much steam behind Wyndham Clark for next week right now.
Well, this is why I jumped back on Grazerman as a bet. That all the steam was on Grazerman going into Colonial, a course that really shouldn't be good for him, and guess what? It wasn't. And now everyone's off of him.
I mean, Max played 2 golf courses yesterday where you have to drive the golf ball. Country Club, Golf Club of Purchase, and Century, and he qualified. And if you look at those numbers versus some of the other qualifiers, those were 2 of the harder final qualifying sites. And I mean, 2 hard golf courses, and he played well. Max is he's not a bad choice. He's not.
And he's not rolling his putter. That's been all that time when he was coming in second over the past 2 years. He was one of the better putters on the PGA Tour. We know because we would bet him every time, and he would come in second and not cash any money for us. Excellent. Yeah. Nice work. He's like Eric Cole, but at deeper odds, essentially. But what he's been doing over the past month or so after a terrible start to the season, he's driving it well. His approach game is going really well. He can't putt right now. He's not a bad putter. He's having a bad run of putting at the moment. What was the thing that always used to hold him back? He's no different than Sam Burns and Robert McIntyre in the way that we were talking about them. He's great at driving. He's great at putting, but now he's actually hitting his approaches. So maybe it just clicks for him.
Yeah. And I mean, he's on a surface that he'd be very familiar with. Northeast kid, New Jersey kid, that bent POA mix, that style of POA has nothing to do with West Coast POA.
No, this is what I play on.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is smooth as a baby's bottom, baby. I mean, that thing is those greens should be moving this week.
This is the same stuff they have in Detroit, right?
Yeah, same stuff. It's that same POA. How did Grazerman putt at Aronimink?
That I don't know.
I
He
don't
probably
know.
lost. He's been on. Actually, no. He actually gained at Aronimink.
Yes, there you go.
That's the one time since the Players Championship he's gained on the greens was at Aronimink.
So a guy that doesn't win, and you need him to putt, right? But he drives the ball great versus me with Cole for a guy that can putt but doesn't drive the ball great. We'll see what happens. Two different theories.
See, I would take Razorman in the head-to-head with Eric Cole.
I mean, I'm game for a gentleman's bet.
Man, and listen, whatever you'd like to put on that, I can put on that. We can come up with something fun to go do, and I'm giving you substantial odds here.
Fair enough.
I'm taking a guy way down the board versus a guy that. This is why I just don't like Eric Cole here. Like Eric Cole's path to winning this tournament is like Andrew Putnam's was last year, where he would be more of an outlier. I feel like at on this leaderboard rather than someone who should be a stalwart. Like, well, if you have the odds in front of you where you're at, what are the difference between Eric Cole's odds and Aaron Rye's odds?
Okay, so give me 1 second. Grazerman's 88 down here.
That's a good number. I like that number. I wanted the placements with Grazerman though. I did not want to go win only.
All right, Cole is 45, Rye 42.
See, Rye's just the better player. And they do, and obviously Cole's a better putter than Rye is, but everything else Rye does better and plays in the wind.
Sure. We could live in a world where Aaron Rye's just winning golf tournaments like every other week. Like
he just won a major.
Yeah, that's fine.
And listen, one of his biggest wins on the DP World Tour was at one of the windiest Scottish Opens in memory when he beat Tommy Fleetwood in that playoff. I feel like
the October one.
I feel like he's beat Tommy Fleetwood in a playoff like 3 times on the DP World Tour. That's just my memory.
He did it in November, right?
Yeah, over in the Middle East.
Yeah.
I think Nikolai was just on the outside looking into that tournament too. Or maybe that was the week after.
Nikolai owes us from Houston. And Nikolai's coming.
Nikolai, no, you know what? Nikolai owes us from Phoenix is where Nikolai owes us from. If he had just taken a drop on hole 2 and he would have got free relief and didn't ask an official, he doesn't triple bogey the hole and lose by 2.
My bounty hunter is out for a different name when it comes to Phoenix. And that name is Hideki Matsuyama.
Never getting that money back, pal.
You're not getting the Nikolai money back. News for you. News flash.
Rapid fire. You got some questions?
You don't have a pro of the week question?
Oh yeah, I do. I do. I don't have anything right now because I'm still dealing. I've only played once since we spoke last week about my block slice. I think it's just I'm not getting my club face. I'm just leaving the club face open, and I can't figure out why exactly. I went to the sim. I think I got it figured out, but obviously, as you know, being on the simulator and being out in real life, 2 completely different things.
Sure.
When you're out there dealing with the elements and standing outside, not having perfect conditions and being able to hit 80 drivers in a row until you figure it out. But
you want to talk about club face awareness then?
Yeah, I would like to do that because I think there are 2 different types of swings from what I'm told. Is that some people get very handsy at impact and that they can try to control the face that way. I'm not that type of player. I'm not super handsy at impact. So I feel like my swing needs to be a little bit different and my approach needs to be a little bit different because of that.
When you've been on launch monitors before, do you know what your spin rate is with the driver?
Yeah, it's like 2,700.
Okay. Not super spinny, but
not great either.
Yeah, average spinny. You'd love it to be like 22, but so there's some spin in your golf swing. Okay, so here's what I would have people do that kind of lack an understanding of exactly where their club face is. I when I would teach, someone would hit a shot that they block or they would pull. So a block is away from your body. A pull is feels like the shot takes off. Now, I'm not talking about one that curves. I'm just talking about what's the start line of where the ball starts going. And, they would block one and I'd say, where was the face? And they would say, oh, it's open. Just like Pat saying it's open. So if you have a decent grip, and I'm sure most people do that are listening to this because, they're big fans of golf and everything. And they probably watch a lot of YouTube golf and, instruction and everything.
I stopped doing that, by the way.
But
I will not watch Instagram reels about golf tips anymore. That's not happening. It just fucks with my head.
After Neil, right? Your coach's name is Neil?
Yeah.
Right? After Neil, it's me. So, as far as the only people you listen to, and I appreciate that. But most people wear a glove on their lead hand. And if any glove company is good at what they do, there's some form of marketing on the back of your left hand. Well, the back of your left hand if you have a reasonable grip, not super strong, not super weak, matches up to the club face. So most people can't feel the club face. It's kind of an abstract thing down there. It's at the end of a stick. But most people can feel where the back of their left hand is. So what I would have them do is a drill. I would take something like a mid iron, say like an 8 iron, a 9 iron, a 7 iron, something like that. I'd have them set up like normal, and I would have them bring their feet together so that they're touching side by each. So they're like this. There's your feet. Okay. And then from there, what we do was called an L drill. And what you would swing the club back, and you would get the arm, your left arm, if you're a right-handed golfer, or your lead arm would be parallel to the ground, and the shaft would be perpendicular to the ground, forming an L. You would swing through, you'd clip the ball, and then your trail arm, or if you're a right-handed golfer, your right arm would then be parallel to the ground, and the shaft would again be perpendicular to the ground, forming an L on the other side. These would be like mirror images of themselves. And if you can swing like that and clip the ball off the ground and get to the other side, think of it like a shorter version of Tommy Fleetwood's swing, right? One of the reasons that Tommy is so accurate and so good at controlling trajectory is that he swings the shaft and the club face in control with his shoulders and his rib cage. Now, by putting your feet together, we don't get a lot of sliding or swaying or moving side to side, and we don't get a lot of early extension like we were talking about last week, right? People tend to stand pretty still with their lower body, and they turn their shoulders and their rib cage, and they swing the club. So you get that L on the back, you swing through, and you get the L on the other side. And when you clip the ball, it's going to go in a certain direction. If they're all going away from you or you're blocking them, then you need to take the logo on that glove and turn it over more. If they're going to the pull side, then the glove needs to kind of slow down a little bit. And if you could do that drill with a mid iron over and over again to the point where you could like choose a target on the range, like a flag, and you could just keep hitting balls at it, and the ball will go about 60% of its normal flight. So if you normally hit your 8 iron, well, I'll say if you normally hit your 7 iron like 150 yards and you're listening to this, then that 7 iron will go like 130 or 125. So choose a target at 125 and make those types of swings. You'll be amazed at what the contact feels like. And you'll understand now why the guys on tour don't look like they swing very hard, but they're using the club more so than what their body is, and you won't get nearly as much body movement. You'll start to clip the ball really, really nicely, and that'll become like your go-to drill for warming up every time you go to the range and getting ready to play golf.
I like that. So here's my issue is that this isn't a problem with any other club besides driver.
Well, you could use something like a 5 iron, okay, and work on that, and then do the drill in sets of 5, Pat. So start out with 4 and 1. So you do the drill 4 times with your 5 iron. You tee up a driver for the 1, and then you take a normal stance and you hit your driver using the same feelings. The reason we use drills is because we're trying to come up with a feeling in our head that we can take to the golf course, not the range, but you take it to the range first, but to the golf course. So when you step up on a tee box and you go, man, I'm going to rifle this driver right down the middle, it's going to feel just like this drill I do, okay? Most people don't allow their arms to move in the golf swing. They hold them very still, like in a Jordan Spieth type pulley across the body motion, right? And he doesn't entirely do that, but that's what it looks like. So it's easy for people to understand that. And then you want your arms to turn over like more like in an Adam Scott sort of way. So you want to look and feel like that. You would do it in sets of 5. So you do 4 of the drill, 1 driver. Maybe the driver goes good, maybe it doesn't. When the driver starts to go good with the 1, then you go 3 and 2. 3 drill, 2 driver. Then you go 2 and 3. 2 drill, 3 driver, 1 and 4, 1 drill, 4 driver. You're ready to take it to the golf course. There you go. That's how you change your brain when you're working on something on the golf course, on the driving range in order to use it. And it's the same feeling that's going on with both. You obviously change your ball position and put it on a tee with the driver, but you're still looking for the same rib cage, shoulder, and arm motion, and that'll really help you.
I like it. I'm putting this into practice tomorrow morning.
There you go. Use it as a warm-up drill. I'm telling you, change your life.
Now I just got to get there earlier so I have time to warm up.
Just like these questions I'm about to ask you are going to change your life.
Let's hear them.
All right, favorite Canadian. This is the 38th venue of the Canadian Open for the second time in a row, but favorite Canadian Open venue.
Shaughnessy GC in Vancouver.
That's my second favorite.
Oh, what's your favorite? It's not Glen Abbey, I hope.
No, Glen Abbey's terrible. St. George's I liked a lot.
St. George's would be number 2 on my list.
Yeah, Shaughnessy was awesome out there in Vancouver. They had the 2023 women's out there. Megan Kang won. We had her. She beat. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, love that golf course.
And great U.S. Open prep course, by the way. It's very hard.
Oh my God. And like, you want to talk about alleyways. Holy moly, the pine trees there and everything. I really enjoyed that golf course. I thought it was cool. And the location's really cool on the water there up in Vancouver. Really good.
So this is another problem, another nit that I have to pick with the Canadian Open. Listen, it happens everywhere. It happened at Erin Hills again for the U.S. Open when things got out of control. I want a national open to be hard. I think that should be a requirement to be a national open in golf.
I'm good with that.
And listen, like they go over and they play at the Renaissance Club for Scotland. If the wind doesn't pick up, it's going to be super easy. Shit happens. I understand that. But I just can't have like minus 18 every year being the winner.
Man, I tell you, I would love for them to, the Sephardi family and everything have done great things for golf. And the Renaissance Club is super nice. But until they move it, and it's the week before, the Open Championship, we're not going back to Muirfield. And we got to go back to Muirfield, right? Like it's right next door. They're not doing it 2 weeks in a row in the same spot. So I would love for them to move the Scottish Open around a little bit so we can get to Muirfield sometime, before you and I are done doing this.
I'd like to hear from some Scottish fans out there. Now, if you're a Scottish fan and you're watching this, smash the like, sub to the channel, sub to the newsletter, all that fun stuff. However,
read the line.
And readtheline.com and betsportsgolf.com code Canada for $1 off. You get all the tools you need. But what I'd like to hear is, would you prefer there be a rotation of courses in Scotland for the Scottish Open? And again, the logistics of it being the week before the Open Championship can kind of make that difficult. But it's the same reason that I get pissed that the Canadian Open doesn't move outside of 100 kilometers of downtown Toronto when this is the second biggest country in the world. Not quite as big of a country in Scotland, but plenty of golf courses, championship golf courses, you can go play. That should there be a rotation? I think that there should.
Shaughnessy, Royal. How about Royal Montreal?
Yeah, I mean,
over there.
Tim Clark. I think Royal Montreal as a tournament would be a great course.
Oh, that was an awesome golf course for the President's Cup. I can't believe how many times the President's Cup come up today, and I put this jacket on. I don't know. It's crazy.
They've never been to Alberta. There's the best course. If they've never been out here, that makes sense. And we have 3 of the world's top 100 courses in Nova Scotia. They're all remote. No, you can't have a tournament there. Like no one's going to go to those. There's nowhere for people to stay. There's nowhere for the players to stay at some of these locations. But in Calgary and outside of Calgary, just outside of Banff, like getting to the border of British Columbia, there's places to stay. There's people that live there, and there's awesome courses to be had.
How about the Earl Grey? That's one of them in Alberta, right?
Couldn't tell you.
Oh, well, anyway.
Sounds like my tea.
Do you wear a glove when you play golf?
Yes. No, actually, you know what? I'm like Moises Alou. I just piss on my hands before every hole.
Interesting. Freddie Couples style. No glove.
No,
right.
I do wear a glove, yes.
Lucas Glover. All right. Low Canadian this week.
I think it's with everything we've talked about, I think it's a great Connors week. And no one is talking about Corey Connors for the first time ever at the Canadian Open.
It'd be a good spot for him. Yellow Mirage too, for sure.
Yeah, he's been. He is. You see this every year. The guys that kind of peak and then they settle down a little bit. He's kind of settling down a little bit.
All right. Nick Taylor, no, this week.
Nah.
All right. You've been doing your research, I'm sure, for the U.S. Open. What's the most interesting hole you've come across so far at Shinnecock?
Haven't dug into the holes yet.
Okay.
But there's a part, I'm trying to remember from 2018. It's the one that Brooks ended up making par on. It's a back 9 par 3. It's super long. Everything it's like a turtleback. Everything comes off of it. He ended up hitting it to the fescue and somehow got it out of there to like 30 feet and made a par putt. It was like, well, Brooks is going to win now. I thought that was a really cool hole. Just a good like tournament not obviously the most visually appealing hole on the course, but one that seems like it can swing the tournament.
Yeah. I mean, that turn, those 3 holes at the turn, 9, 10, 11, you're going to see so much fun. People that start on the back for that one round on either Thursday or Friday. Woo, baby.
Let's see. Luck. Shinnecock Hills. Yeah, I don't have it all in front of me right now, so I can't quite remember exactly what it is.
Which Canadians make the President's Cup team? Right now, you got 2 in the top 10.
So Nick Taylor. They have to take, after not taking him in Canada while still being Canada's best player, like he's got to be on the team. So Nick Taylor, they'll take Connors because they take him every year. But if he doesn't,
anybody else?
I mean, I would like to see Yella Miraggio on the team if he continues, like if he can get it back together and start putting together performances again. I think he'd be more fun to have out there, if nothing. Like, if you're going to be a 5-1 underdog at the President's Cup, running back the same guys you always run back probably isn't a winning strategy.
Yeah, I don't like it. Plus maybe they should think about the golf course at Medina and like who would be a good fit there. Yellow Mirage is a pretty good ball striker.
They would never do that. The fact that the President's Cup like captains like can get together to pick 12 guys, frankly, stuns me.
All right, fun question for you. If you could transform yourself into any one player right now, current player, at the stage they're at in their career, who would you want to be?
Michael Brennan.
I knew you were going to say that.
Just let me be the guy that is the best driver in the world. Let me figure out the rest. Like, this is not that dissimilar. Obviously, he doesn't have the same skills, but this is what Dustin Johnson was. And then then he figured out the rest.
When Dustin Johnson figured out his wedge play, I mean, he went nuclear. It was great. Yeah. I think I'd go Ludwig, but like I knew you were going to say Brennan. I just knew it.
The actual answer is Koiven.
I don't know. I think I went with Ludwig because like he's proven that he's pretty good at this point. Jackson Koiven could be Luke Clanton in a year.
He could be, but Koiven's ability to kind of like drive it like Michael Brennan is simply terrifying.
Yep. Or two better words for you to describe Jackson Koiven: Patrick Rogers. There you go.
It doesn't feel like Rogers had this skill set where Koiven's prodigious distance and accuracy is like, oh, it's better than Ludwig. It's weird.
Well, Koiven's best skill is his putter.
Well, they're even
which
better.
Is kind of crazy. Which is why he wins so much, or why he's such a phenomenon. Final score over under in Vegas is 261.5 minus 18.5. We going over or under 261.5?
I feel like that's a big under. If the wind is going to be like this, like mine, if I looked at this forecast and you could sign me up for minus 13 right now, I think I'd take my chances.
So you want the over of 261.5 then?
I guess, yeah, that would be the over, wouldn't it? Yeah, so the over, yes.
Yeah. Name one guy you would want to play bad this week so his odds don't jump for next week at Shinnecock.
So Rose was the answer for you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
Who would it be for me? No, I don't know. The answer might be Brooks.
Feeling a little Koepka return next week.
Yeah, but I need him to have another one of those weeks where it's like, oh yeah, Brooks was third tee to green. He just lost 25 strokes putting. It's like, well, maybe next week's the week he can putt.
Man, those are some serious greens at Shinnecock. They're no joke,
But is that like the Masters where we might see a less than good putter win?
Oh no, it's totally like the Masters. Yes, that's my point. Yes.
So we
good
can
qualifying question. Between the wind and the undulation of those greens and the borderline speed, I'm sure that the USGA will have them at. What was it? The Fitzpatrick brothers were out there the other day on their way to Muirfield Village. They went and they said the place was pretty much with the wind and everything. It was unplayable. That was their quote.
I saw Rory and Scotty were out there as well. Rory said that the fairways are pretty generous, but like you miss one, you're done for. And then it's funny that no professional athlete gets more shit for just like telling you what he's thinking than Rory does. The guy can't say anything without people hating his guts. It's weird.
Oh man, it is. I'm not the biggest Rory fan, but he doesn't get a fair shake when it comes to like just giving his opinion on something that doesn't really matter, like the width of the fairways there or whatever. Now
here's Rory whining about the fairways. Like, you asked him about the fairways. Would you prefer he lie to you or say nothing? Like, which is it?
I mean, from the player's perspective, he'd want it to be easy.
Yeah.
He knows how hard it's going to be. He's like, I want it to be easier, right?
Who wouldn't?
All right, who win? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Right, who wouldn't? If you were playing, who wouldn't want it to be eaten? You know what I like? Impossible conditions. That's what I like.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let me play Oakmont every day of my life, please. No, thank you. Right? Shinnecock is it's actually pretty scoreable, but it's going to blow 25 every day. So like, it's going to be really hard.
Do they have the block letter cock hats yet?
But the letters are upside down. They have to be. That's the new adaptation for that.
Great.
That would be very un-USGA like if they had the big bold lettered cock.
Oh, there's absolute there's the goober class of Americans and Canadians and people worldwide that would line up to buy that hat. They would make so much money.
Oh man, well the USGA likes money, so you just made me think if they were selling those hats last week at Riviera. Obviously, it doesn't make sense, but it would just be funny. All right, let me get out of here then. That's terrible. Who wins on the North Course this week, Pat?
Alex Fitzpatrick.
Oh, I love that pick. Take us away.
Are you going to be on site at the Cock next week?
Oh, yes, sir. Next week's show, we'll probably record later than usual. I will get us a spot in the media center, and I will definitely be on site. Pretty much the whole week. Yeah.
Yeah, as we do for majors, you'll be able to see the players, you'll be able to see the course, and really give us those Monday and Tuesday deep dives and tell us what you've seen as we get prepared for that final day. So readtheline.com. Thank you very much, Keith, for being on the line. You can follow Keith on X at KJ Stewart, PGA, me at the PME. I want to thank you all for watching. $1 once again with code Canada at betspertsgolf.com. Okay? See you next time.
Mayo Experience! Experience!